Whatever time it is where you are, I hope that you're having a good time. My name is Andrew Komasinski. This is the first in a series of flips, by which I mean lectures for a flipped class called Critical Thinking at Hokkaido University of Education, Asahikawa. First, let me introduce myself. So, I have my slide over here. I'm Andrew Komasinski. I have a PhD in philosophy from Fordham University. I regularly publish in modern and comparative philosophy. My specializations are Hegel, Kierkegaard, and Confucianism. Some of my most recent work is published in the Journal of the American Philosophical Association and in American Catholic Philosophical Quarterly. In addition to my work as a philosopher, I also teach English as part of my job, and I also do some programming work. I have some past experience doing that professionally. So, I have taught 5 different versions of critical thinking. The first version was when I was at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles, California. I used Louis Vaughn's textbook and I taught my first university class. I would say there's a lot of room I had to improve from there, and I've been working on that ever since. After I completed my PhD, I started working full-time at Hokkaido University of Education here in Asahikawa, and I tried using a workbook for arguments by David Morrow and Anthony Weston, but the university bookstore was unable to acquire a copy of it. This actually proved to be beneficial because the content would have been too hard for my students. Now, starting from the fall of that year, I decided to give a flipped format a shot. By a flipped format, I mean doing the homework in class, having the lectures outside of class. I found this to be rather successful, so a year later I went ahead and made a new version of the class where every single one of the lectures was presented in a flipped format, or rather this 4th version, 6 different times to teach this material. As a result, I saw some places where students had difficulty or where my explanations could have been better, and I have revised those sections and improved them, and that is what I'm planning to use moving forward starting from the fall of this year. So, the first version of the flip was incomplete. It only covered about half of it. It was mostly just audio capture of me walking through a PowerPoint. The second version, I was standing here next to the material as it was presented, but the recording quality could have been improved. Both the audio and the video needed some improvement. With this version, I have picked up some new technological skills. I have figured out how to improve the audio, how to replace backgrounds, and do some better video editing. I'm hoping all of this together will make for a better version of the class, and I hope that you will enjoy it. So again, I depended to some extent in the earlier versions on Anthony Weston's A Rulebook for Critical Thinking. I think it's a very good book that reflects a lot of hard work on his part. Starting in 2014, I tried to begin adapting his material to English as a foreign language context. Based on student feedback, I have made further improvements and changes. I've altered some of the language that I use to talk about this. So here's a picture of this book in its English and Japanese versions. All right, how is this course organized? So in a traditional class, you're going to have a lecture during the class. You're going to be assigned homework. The lecture is going to help you to work on your listening skills and also to work on your speaking skills. The homework will depend on reading and critical thinking and writing. The quizzes and the tests will test your critical thinking and they will test your writing ability. In a flipped version of the class, in class, we're going to do those problems together. So we'll talk through them. I'll be walking around to help my students with them. And then as homework, you'll be listening to lectures. This means that you can do several things that are actually better for you, and I found it to be very successful for this class format. Quizzes and tests, still going to be the same. All right, in a normal class, we're going to have 3 things. First, I'm going to give you time to ask questions. Then we're going to take a quiz on the previous lecture's contents to make sure that you actually have been learning. Finally, we're going to spend the class time doing problems related to the lecture material. So this is going to extend your understanding of the lecture. It's also going to help me know where you're having trouble, and it's going to let me answer your questions in real time. That way you don't get stuck at home doing homework that you're having some trouble understanding. So in each of the flips, I'm going to explain some of the key terms. I'm going to talk about the basic concepts and give you examples. I'm going to solve some example problems. I am also going to answer some questions that I quite often get and try to help you to make progress through the material. One great thing about using YouTube videos as the lecture format is that you can speed up or slow down YouTube videos. So if you're a native speaker like me, when I'm watching something where people are talking on YouTube, I usually listen to it at double speed or 1.5 speed. But if I'm watching something that's in Japanese or German, I would slow it down because I'm not a native speaker and it's often hard for me to pick things up at full speed. This also can help if you're taking notes. You can also go back and see things that you looked at before. You can go forward. Both of these things help you to make your stuff work better. So our course plan is this. We're going to start by spending some time on general critical thinking skills. We're going to talk about evaluating and producing arguments. Then we're going to look at deductive arguments. I'm going to teach you 5 standard forms. I'm going to talk to you about truth tables, operators, and the concept of validity. Finally, we will look at basic inductive arguments. In this context, I want to look at arguments by analogy and at generalizations and to talk about the features of these sorts of arguments and how they differ from the deductive arguments we'll have looked at in the middle of the class. So, I'm Andrew Komasinski. Thank you for joining me in this particular class. This video is one that many students probably won't end up watching because I don't assign it as homework. I explain these concepts during the first week of class. So whatever time it is, I do hope that you are having a good time, and I look forward to your comments and questions. If you're watching it on YouTube, please give me comments. Anything that is helpful, I will use. Thank you for your time and attention.